here's Brody Brazil.
Well, you may have seen my video from a couple days ago on those reports that Major League Baseball was set to announce they'll be playing a regular season game in 2025 at the Bristol Motor Speedway in the state of Tennessee. Since that video was published, this news has become official. Baseball has announced this. They've given us some more information and details and even visuals. I'll get to breaking down those renderings for you in just a second. But first, we begin with the name. They're going to call this the Speedway Classic 25. We also now know the date. This game will take place on August 2nd, 2025. And we always knew the matchup of two teams, Atlanta and Cincinnati, but it turns out it appears like the Reds are actually going to be the home team for this neutral site game and venue, which honestly could have gone either way. When you think about it geographically, Bristol is literally right in the middle of Cincinnati and Atlanta. It's about a 5-hour equal distance drive from both cities. So because of that, I do expect the fan bases on both sides to have good showings. But as for the game and the way it'll be played, the Reds, I think, are going to be the home team. They will get the last at-bats in this game. Okay, on to the visuals, and this was actually kind of a compelling question, like logistically. How are you going to, first off, make a baseball field on the infield of a racecourse track, but how will you fit a major league field and its dimensions inside the shape of an oval racecourse, like a half-mile track, but how do you make that fit between these two shapes? And there were a lot of different options. I think initially on my video, I questioned maybe you kind of put it to one end or down here at the other, but I think because of some of the permanent buildings over here and maybe over here, the only real option was to go right in the center of this speedway and the infield here. I also had some questions about that hanging scoreboard, which I did find out from the comment section. It can go both up and down, and I think they call it Colossus. So if I'm right or wrong, it's just a big hanging scoreboard that obviously they use for racing, but you got to be a little bit cognizant, right? Because fly balls, if they hit that thing, even if it's 150 feet high, I saw a comment that said it can go up to about 200 feet high, which is higher than the rings of the ceiling of the dome at the Tropicana field site. Anyway, long story short, they can get that thing out of the way. They can put a field here in the middle, and apparently they can make it fit. And I don't know the dimensions here down the left field line, but it looks equal distance, right? It looks like a normal shaped and sized field if you believe in these renderings. I also found it interesting that they're going to add like up close seating here. So it's not just going to be all these grandstands, which of course they want to fill. They want to get to 140, 150,000 fans potentially. But bullpens here down the right field line, bullpens down the left field line, seating behind the infield area, and then obviously all of this. Oh, I also thought this was interesting too, to carve out a batter's eye. I mean, you got to do it, right? But how exactly will this go? Will it really make a difference that far away? I mean, usually a batter's eye is like right here. It gives the batter a much better vision. Maybe they'll have to build something a lot higher. I should do this in a different color. A lot higher. I should have done it in a third color, blue. Higher right there so that hitters can have a better backdrop and a perspective to pick up the baseball. So just overall, right, like baseball field fitting in the middle of the race course on the infield there, right in the middle, not to one side or the other. Looks like they've got a building there. Maybe that's a clubhouse for Atlanta. Maybe that's a clubhouse for Cincinnati. But I mean, there's a lot to pull off here, not just putting in the infield, the actual baseball field, but putting it where they are. Here's kind of a ground level view. So this appears to me to be if you were sitting maybe in the last row of those temporary seats. What will that be like? Will there actually be seats, or is this bleachers? I mean, how are they really going to build up that infrastructure of dugouts on both sides? This is complicated. Netting to protect all the fans on both sides. There's just so much going on here. By the way, there's that scoreboard. So that looks like it's in foul ground, right? That looks like it's no factor that if a ball went and hit it, or if it was that high, doesn't look like that's going to be a factor in terms of playing a game. And then here we are with a look from left field. And I mean, how far away is that field actually going to be? Because here, it appears like maybe you're only about halfway up those seats. Imagine being like way up there, or in one of these luxury boxes up here. How far away are you actually going to be from this field? I don't know that the sight lines are going to be impressive at all, but the atmosphere, right? And the situation might be more compelling than anything else. So that brings me to a bunch of questions to kind of close out this video, beginning with this. Number one, they're doing this game for attendance reasons. It feels actually kind of selfish that they just want to have the biggest attended baseball game in the history of the sport. But will this game actually sell out to capacity, and what will the final attendance figure be? My point is, if right now it seats 146,000 for like a NASCAR event, can they get that or more, or will they get like 95,000 but call it 130,000 and still be satisfied with that? Like, how are people going to be really interested in going to this if the seats are going to be really bad, if it's going to be, not the best spectator environment? Are people just going to want to go because they can say they were there? And that's fine. Like, I'm not mad at anybody for wanting to do this game or wanting to go to this game. If you're a fan of either team, of course you're going to be interested in this. I'm only curious of, is this actually going to be so popular that it literally sells out? Not what's announced. I mean, literally, are they going to fill every seat for this baseball game? I also have some questions about field installation and like irrigation and how the playing surface is actually going to perform as a major league field. I mean, have you been on a major league field? Those are pristine surfaces, the grass, the dirt, the foul lines. I mean, like every blade of grass is cut to precision and they have to water it and fertilize it at specific times. This is a project months in the making just for the field and the dugouts and the clubhouses, obviously. But that playing surface is hard to get right. You literally have to put a dirt and grass field atop what? Asphalt, pavement, whatever's in the infield of the Bristol Motor Speedway. You also have to figure out a way to water the whole darn thing and make the grass green and make it grow and probably start growing all of this and having the sod take place like several months in advance of August. And what about the NASCAR schedule? I actually should have cross-referenced when the racing events are going to be at the Bristol Motor Speedway, but how will this field actually hold up for a baseball game? Because I'll tell you what, if I own either one of these two teams and some of my star players are out there, I want to make sure that this isn't just some spectacle for the fans that might put my own players and their health and their careers in jeopardy. I want to make sure that my outfielders, like when they cut for a ball, that the grass isn't just going to fly up and they lose their footing, they sprain an ankle, they hurt their knee. Like, you want to make sure, like for the infielders, there's no bad hops. You want to make sure that this is done right. Like, they don't often do a baseball game where there wasn't a baseball field. Places like the Cooperstown game that they used to do, that's an existing field. They can just fix it up, but the field already existed. Or at Rickwood, the field already existed. Or Williamsport for the Little League Showcase game. The field already existed. They're only fixing it up. In this case, the field doesn't exist. They have to make the field, make it right for one game, and hope that everything works out. It's not easy. I'm saying it's possible. I'm just saying it's not easy. Also the intentions behind this game, is this to actually grow MLB's brand? Are you going to get more fans out of this? Or is this just kind of a self-centered act to draw the most fans for one baseball game and break that record, like I said? The previous record, by the way, 2008, 115,000 plus at the LA Coliseum. That was the Dodgers and Red Sox game that they played there. Are you just trying to break that record and say, we did it? Is that what all this work and effort is all about? Obviously, you'll sell a lot of tickets and memorabilia and merchandise. But the other games, like I mentioned before, whether it's Cooperstown for the Hall of Fame, whether it's Williamsport for the Little Leaguers, whether it's even Dyersville, Iowa for the Field of Dreams site and all of that stuff, or Rickwood for the cultural significance of playing at Rickwood Field in Alabama. I mean, there's so many reasons behind that. What's the real reason behind this? Do you think you'll grow the game? You might, but is it more about patting yourself on the back and saying, hey, we did an attendance record? It kind of feels like it's mainly about that. And will the unique atmosphere of, yeah, this is pretty cool, playing a baseball game at a motor speedway like this, will it surpass the, let's just be obvious here, less optimal sight lines for an MLB field at a speedway. These are not going to be tremendous viewing angles, and you're not going to get an up-close and personal look at this unless you're sitting on one of those close-up temporary seats behind the infield. Every other seat is going to be pretty awful, right? So, but the question is the experience of being there and the cool factor of being there, is that going to outweigh and surpass the fact that you kind of can't even actually see the game or enjoy it properly like you normally do? I also want to close out by saying, all right, you're doing this once. You've got Atlanta lined up, you've got Cincinnati lined up, you've got the Bristol Speedway lined up. But hey, there's lots of teams in baseball, and there's plenty of other oval-shaped speedways across the country. Is this now a new Major League Baseball tradition? Or is this a tryout for maybe doing more of these in the future, but you're not exactly sure? Is this a one-off to break the attendance record? Is this a regular thing? Are you trying to do this? Is there reasoning behind this? I don't know. That's for baseball to obviously dictate to us, but it's definitely a question of mine. So there you go. The Speedway Classic 25, by the way, presented by BuildSubmarines.com. I've seen that all over the place. And I mean, I've got no problems with building a submarine. I just don't know that I'd want to get in a submarine that I built myself. I like myself, and that's why I don't trust myself to build myself a submarine of all things. Anyway, that's for another time. But for right now, you've made it to the end of this video. I really appreciate that. Thumbs up for me down below if you would. That'll greatly help me in this video, in this channel. I would like that, but I would also love it even more if you took just 1 second right now, go down there and hit that subscribe button. That way I, for sure, can see you back here next time.